Imagine a long night stretched across the sky, heavy with shadows, so endless that you begin to believe the sun may never rise again. You've walked through that night. You've endured storms that felt unrelenting, trials that seemed designed to break you, and valleys where hope flickered like a dying candle. You know the ache of betrayal, the sting of loss, and the weight of unanswered prayers pressing upon your chest, until you wondered if God even remembered your name. And yet, listen closely now, something profound has shifted in the unseen. The heavens have spoken a decree over your life, and the decree is final. Congratulations, God whispers. It's done. You will never have to go through that again. I declare it's over now. There is a holy finality in those words. When God closes a chapter, no human hand can rewrite it. When He declares an ending, even the enemy trembles because the verdict is sealed. Think for a moment. How many times did you circle the same wilderness, reliving the same hurt, facing the same obstacles, crying the same tears? How many nights did you plead for a dawn that never seemed to break, and yet here you are, standing on the edge of something new, not because of your strength, but because God has declared enough. Do you realize what this means? It means your past can no longer chain you. The pain that defined yesterday will not follow you into tomorrow. That storm has exhausted itself. It has no more rain to pour over your life. That door of suffering has been shut by the very hand of the one who holds the keys of life. You may still feel the echoes of what you endured, but echoes are powerless. They are only reminders of something that no longer exists. Pause and let this truth settle. The worst is behind you. The battle that threatened to consume you is over. You will not have to walk that road again. God, who watched every tear and measured every sorrow, has now spoken restoration. But let me ask you, why does God allow such seasons in the first place? Why must we be broken before we are healed? It is because suffering refines. It strips away illusions. It teaches us what comfort never could. You now carry a depth of wisdom, a resilience, and a faith that could only be forged in fire. The darkness you endured has prepared you to stand in the light without fear. So do not mourn what you have lost, for it was never meant to stay. Do not fear that it will return, for heaven itself has written a decree against it. Lift your head. The chapter is closed. The night is over. The chains are broken, and your story is entering a new season marked not by survival, but by victory. God declares, it is finished. The pain is ended. The struggle will not return. My child, rejoice, for I am doing a new thing. There is a profound difference between endings created by human hands and endings decreed by God. Human decisions are fragile. They can be overturned, questioned, or reversed. People may say goodbye today and return tomorrow. They may declare something finished, yet revisit it when it suits their desires. But when God speaks a final word over a season of your life, His decree is not subject to debate. The same God who spoke creation into being, who commanded the seas to part and the sun to stand still, now speaks over your suffering, it is finished. Think of the power in that. For months, perhaps years, you lived under the fear that what you endured might come back. The betrayal, the loss, the humiliation, it haunted your thoughts like a shadow that clings even when the sun shines. You feared the cycle would repeat. But God does not operate in cycles of torment. He is a God of completion. When He says a chapter is closed, He seals it with His authority, and no hand in heaven or on earth can pry it open again. Do you remember the times you begged Him to release you? The nights you wept, asking why it seemed your prayers echoed into silence? In truth, those prayers were never ignored. God was waiting for the appointed time. the moment when the story could be ended in such a way that even your enemies would know it was His hand at work. You see, if the door had closed too soon, you might have thought it was your strength. If the storm had stopped too early, you may have believed it was coincidence. But now, after you have endured until the very end, there is no doubt. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. When God declares something over, He doesn't simply walk away from it. He redeems the time. He rewrites the memory. He transforms the scar into a testimony. You will not look at the ashes of what was and feel despair. You will see them as the very evidence of what God delivered you from. And every time fear whispers that it may return, you can stand boldly and answer, God Himself said it is done. Who can undo what the Creator has finished? Think of a courtroom. When the judge speaks the final verdict, the gavel falls and the matter is settled. The accuser may rage, the guilty may protest, but the decision stands. Now, consider this. God is not just the judge. He is also your defender, your witness, and the author of your story. When He declares an ending, it is not only a legal decree. It is a divine one. No enemy, no betrayal, no memory of the past can rise against it. Your tormentor thought they had power over you, but they did not write the ending. Your circumstance felt unending, but it did not hold the pen. God, who authored your life before you drew your first breath, has written this chapter closed. The page has turned, and though the enemy may attempt to remind you of what was, it is powerless to resurrect what God has buried. When He declares, you will never go through this again, it is not a hope, it is a guarantee. So, lift your heart with confidence. The season is sealed. The pain has expired. God has spoken, and His word cannot return void. It is one of the greatest paradoxes of faith that what feels like destruction is often the very process of refinement. You thought the fire was meant to consume you, yet it was shaping you. You believed the darkness was suffocating your purpose, yet it was deepening it. What you endured was not designed to end you, but to transform you. Think of gold. It is not valuable because it sits untouched in the earth. Its worth is revealed only through the furnace. The fire strips away the impurities, burns off what cannot last, and reveals the brilliance hidden within. Without the fire, the gold remains common. With the fire, it becomes priceless. In the same way, your suffering was the furnace. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every unanswered question, they were the flames that refined you. At the time, it felt cruel. You wondered if God had abandoned you, if your prayers had gone unnoticed. But what if the silence was not abandonment, but strategy? What if the weight you carried was pressing out of you the very strength you would need for the season to come? God saw what you could not. That endurance is not built in comfort, but in trial. That compassion is not learned in ease, but in pain. That wisdom is not granted in theory, but in lived experience. Look at yourself now. You are not the same person you were before the storm began. You carry a depth of understanding, a strength of spirit, and a clarity of purpose that you did not have before. People may look at you and see only scars, but heaven looks at you and sees refinement. Your suffering did not reduce your worth, it revealed it. Consider also the seed buried in the soil. To the eye, it seems the earth has swallowed it whole, burying it in darkness. Yet beneath that soil, transformation is taking place. The seed is breaking open not because it is dying, but because it is being reborn. What looks like destruction is the necessary breaking that precedes growth. So it was with you. Your suffering was the soil, your pain the breaking. And now a new life is emerging from the very place you thought would be your grave. When you cried, you were softened. When you were betrayed, you were sharpened. When you were left alone, you were taught how to lean wholly on God. The storm was never meant to kill you. It was meant to reveal the strength He placed within you from the beginning. And though the enemy rejoiced when he saw you fall, what he did not know was that every fall was forging resilience. Every wound was creating wisdom. Every silence was preparing a song. Now you stand, not destroyed but refined. You are not the victim of your pain. You are the product of God's process. And the glory of this truth is that what you endured will now become your testimony. Others who walk through their own fires will look at you and find hope. They will see the evidence that suffering does not have the final word. God does. So remember this. Your suffering was never wasted. Every tear was accounted for. Every heartbreak was seen. And today, as you rise from the ashes, you are not fragile. You are unshakable. There are seasons in life where the storm does not simply pass quickly. It lingers. It howls against the walls of your heart, and you begin to think it has no end. Days blur into nights, and nights stretch into long watches of despair. You thought the storm would define you. You thought its winds would tear apart everything you held dear. Yet storms, no matter how violent, are not eternal. Their strength is finite, their energy limited, their fury destined to run out. And so it is with what you have endured. You must see the truth now. The storm that raged so violently over your life has finally spent itself. Its winds have calmed, its lightning has faded, its thunder is silent. It may have left debris behind, it may have shaken you to the core, but it could not last forever. The very storm that terrified you has grown weary, and it is no more. What once roared against you is now only an echo in the distance. Think about the ocean. No wave, no matter how high, can remain frozen in power. It crashes, it breaks, and it retreats. The same is true of the storms that came against your soul. They rose up, swelling with arrogance, but they have broken against the rock of God's decree. They cannot return with the same force. Their season is over. When you were in the storm, you questioned if it would ever stop. You asked, "Why does this pain continue without relief? Why does it seem like I am drowning?" But storms serve a purpose. They strip away what is fragile so that only what is unshakable remains. And once their purpose is complete, they fade. They do not possess endless authority. They are bound by limits set by the One who commands the winds and the waves. Consider how the disciples once trembled in their boat when the sea rose against them. To them it felt endless, but with a single word, "Peace, be still," the storm was silenced. The same voice has spoken over your life. The tempest that terrified you has now bowed to His authority. What you thought would never end has in truth already ended. The silence you hear now is not empty, it is holy peace. Do not be afraid of aftershocks. Sometimes when storms pass, the skies still grumble with distant thunder. That does not mean the storm will return. It means you are adjusting to calm after chaos. You may still carry the reflex of fear, waiting for the next strike, but fear is a liar. The storm cannot resurrect itself. Its assignment against you is complete, and it is lost. You will wake tomorrow without that weight pressing against your spirit. You will step forward without the dread that once paralyzed you. For God has decreed the storm is over. It has exhausted its strength. It cannot touch you again. There is something strange about memory. Even after the wound is healed, the mind remembers the sting. The body no longer bleeds, but the heart recalls the trauma. These are echoes, reminders of what once was. They are shadows of pain, but they hold no real power. And yet, if you are not careful, you might mistake the echo for the event, believing the past still has the ability to harm you. God wants you to understand this truth. The pain you endured has ended, but the memory may linger like a whisper. Do not confuse the two. The decree of God has silenced the power of that pain, even if its echo still speaks. You may hear it in moments of silence, in the fragile corners of your heart, where fear hides. But remember, an echo cannot harm you. It is only a reflection of what has already died. Imagine standing in a canyon and shouting into the distance. The sound bounces back again and again, growing weaker each time. The first cry is strong, but the echo fades until it is nothing. This is what happens when you face reminders of what you went through. At first, the memory may feel sharp, fresh, as if the wound has reopened. But with every passing day, with every repetition of God's promise, the echo will weaken until it disappears. The enemy thrives on echoes. He cannot create new wounds when God has sealed them, so he tries to keep you bound to old ones by reminding you of what was. He whispers, "What if it happens again? What if you are betrayed once more? What if the storm returns?" But these are lies. They are powerless whispers bouncing off the walls of your memory. They are not truth, for God has already spoken the truth. It is finished. The decree of God is stronger than the echo of pain. His word is a shield against the voices that try to convince you the worst is not yet over. When he declares a thing ended, he does not leave loopholes. He does not speak with hesitation. His decree is final. So when echoes rise, answer them with his word. Remind yourself, God has said this is over. God has declared my freedom. God has spoken life over me, and no echo can contradict his voice. Even scars are evidence of this truth. A scar is not a wound. It is the mark of healing. You may look at it and remember the pain, but it cannot reopen itself. The scar tells the story of survival, not of destruction. Likewise, the echoes of your suffering are reminders of what God has already delivered you from. They are monuments, not prisons. So walk forward with courage. Do not let the past convince you it has claws in your future. The echoes you hear are fading, and soon they will vanish completely. What remains will not be torment, it will be testimony. Every ending in God's kingdom is not a void, it is an opening. When he closes one chapter, it is because he has already written the beginning of another. You may have walked through years where everything seemed stripped away from you, where betrayal left you empty, where loss hollowed out your heart. But those years were not wasted. They were preparation for the season you are stepping into now. A season not defined by suffering, but by restoration and favor. Restoration is not simply the act of returning what was taken. God does not return things in the same condition they were lost. When he restores, he multiplies. When he redeems, he elevates. Think of Job, who lost everything, wealth, family, health, yet in the end God gave him twice as much as he had before. That is the nature of divine restoration. It is abundance after famine, joy after mourning, peace after chaos. Perhaps you once believed your best days were behind you. Perhaps you looked at what was broken and thought, how can I ever rebuild? But hear this truth. The God who speaks worlds into existence has declared a new beginning over your life. And this beginning is not small. It is marked with his favor, the kind of favor that cannot be explained, only witnessed. The very people who saw your suffering will now see your rising. The ones who doubted you will watch as doors open that no man can shut. This season is different because it is not built on your strength but on his promise. In the past, you struggled to hold everything together with your own hands. You worried, you planned, you tried to make sense of chaos, but now you will see what happens when God Himself holds your story. His favor will carry you where effort could not. His hand will provide what toil could never produce. His timing will align blessings you could not have orchestrated. Restoration also means healing in the unseen places. It is not only about circumstances turning around. It is about your heart being mended. God is restoring your joy, your peace, your trust. Where anxiety once reigned, serenity will now rule. Where fear kept you imprisoned, confidence will now flourish. You are not just being given back what you lost. You are being made whole in ways you never were before. And as favor rests upon you, you will find that even the struggles of yesterday become fuel for today's blessings. The tears you shed watered the soil for your harvest. The nights of loneliness prepared you to value true companionship. The betrayal trained your eyes to discern authenticity. Everything you endured has positioned you to handle favor without losing yourself in it. So do not shrink back. This is your new season. Walk into it with boldness, for the Lord Himself has declared it. You will no longer live in the ruins of yesterday. You will dwell in the abundance of today and the promise of tomorrow. The night is over. Restoration has come. The valley is a teacher unlike any other. It strips away illusion, dismantles pride, and reveals what truly matters. You never asked to walk through that valley. You would have chosen the mountain if given the option. But it was in the valley where you learned lessons that no summit could teach. And those lessons, that wisdom born of suffering, will now sustain you as you rise into your new season of blessing. Think about it. In the valley, you discovered the strength of God's presence when no one else remained. You learnt the sound of His whisper when every other voice was silent. You became acquainted with His faithfulness, not in moments of ease, but in moments when you thought you would collapse under the weight of despair. Those experiences carved into your soul a wisdom deeper than any book or sermon could provide. The mountain is a place of visibility. It is where others will see your victory, where your life will shine as a testimony of God's goodness. But visibility without wisdom can be dangerous. Many people rise too quickly, only to fall because they lack the character to sustain their position. But you have been shaped in the valley. You carry scars that remind you of where you came from. You carry humility that keeps you anchored when favor arrives. You carry discernment that allows you to recognize the difference between truth and deception, loyalty and betrayal. The valley gave you endurance. It taught you that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the decision to stand even when you feel weak. It showed you that faith is not a feeling but a choice, one you make in the dark long before you ever see the light. That endurance is now your foundation. On the mountain, when the weight of favor might tempt you to grow careless, endurance will keep you steady. The valley also taught you compassion. Because you know what it feels like to be broken, you will never look at another broken soul with indifference. You will see their pain with eyes of understanding. And that compassion will make your victory meaningful. It will keep you from becoming arrogant, for you will know that every step upward was paved by God's mercy, not your merit. There is also wisdom in the silence of the valley. You learned that not every voice deserves access to your heart, that not every opinion should shape your direction. You discovered how to hear God above the noise, and that wisdom will now guard you on the mountain. When praise surrounds you, when opportunities beckon, you will know how to discern His voice, ensuring you do not stray from the path He has set. So carry the lessons of the valley with gratitude. They are not reminders of suffering, but treasures of wisdom. Without them, the mountain would overwhelm you. With them, you will stand firm, shining not only with victory, but with the maturity to sustain it. When God speaks, His word does not linger in uncertainty. It does not wait for human validation, nor does it seek permission from your enemies. It is final. His declaration carries the weight of eternity, and when He says, "Congratulations, it's done," He is not speaking of a possibility. He is announcing a reality. Think of the authority of His voice. At creation, He said, "Let there be light," and light burst forth into existence. He spoke, and galaxies formed, oceans roared, mountains rose. His word is not suggestion. It is command, it is law, it is truth itself. That same voice that commanded the universe into being now declares over your life, "It is done." The season of pain is over. The trial is complete. The door of suffering is shut forever. So often we measure finality by human standards. We think of contracts that can be broken, promises that can be abandoned, words that can be retracted. But God's word does not change. He is not man that He should lie, nor human that He should change His mind. What He has spoken over you will stand when all else falls. When He says, "Finished," nothing in heaven or on earth can rewrite the ending. Consider how many times you replayed the same fears in your mind. What if this happens again? What if I'm betrayed again? What if the same storm returns? That is the language of trauma, born of wounds that ran deep. But trauma is not truth. God's word is truth, and His word silences every "what if." His decree is not conditional. It is not temporary. It is eternal. When He says you will never go through this again, you can rest in confidence, not because the world is safe, but because His promise is unshakable. The finality of His word also means you do not have to keep fighting old battles. Too often we carry the armor of yesterday into the peace of today. We brace ourselves for attacks that will never come. We rehearse responses to enemies who are already defeated. But God is telling you, lay down your sword. The war is over. You do not have to live in defensive posture anymore. His declaration has settled the matter. His declaration has settled the matter. The chains are broken. The prison doors are open. Walk in freedom. This final word is also a beginning. It is both an ending and a birth. When He says, "Congratulations, it's done," it is like hearing the doctor announce that labor has ended and new life has entered the world. The pain of birthing was real, but it cannot compare to the joy of what has been born. Your tears were labor pains. Your sleepless nights were contractions of the soul, but now something new has emerged. Your future, your destiny, your peace. The anguish was temporary. The joy will be eternal. And think of the word congratulations. It is not a whisper of pity. It is a shout of triumph. God is not merely informing you that your trial is over. He is celebrating your endurance, your faith, your refusal to surrender when everything in you wanted to quit. He is congratulating you because you stood, because you endured, because you allowed Him to carry you through the valley without abandoning your faith. His voice is not cold decree, it is tender affirmation. Well done, my child, you made it. It is over now. So anchor your soul in this truth. God's word is final. Your enemies may chatter, your fears may echo, your memories may linger, but none of them have authority. Only His word stands. And His word over you is victory, restoration, favor, and peace. Congratulations, it is done. My friend, pause and let this moment settle in your heart. The storm you thought would never end is finished. The valley that felt endless has given way to a mountain of hope. The betrayals, the tears, the nights of despair, God has written his decree over them. It is done. You will never have to walk through that pain again. The chains are broken, the door is closed, the enemy silenced. A new season has dawned, marked not by sorrow but by restoration, not by struggle but by favor. What once crushed you has now refined you. What once wounded you has now strengthened you. And the wisdom born of your suffering will carry you into your season of abundance. Hear his voice today, not the voice of fear, not the echo of the past, but the eternal word of the one who holds your life. Congratulations, my child. It is finished. You will never face this again. Walk forward, for I am making all things new. So lift your head, wipe your tears, step into the future with courage, because heaven itself is celebrating you. God has spoken, and his word is final. It's over now.